Welcome, people of the internet. This is Geek Rating Review, where we talk about everything geek culture and geek related. My name is Jean-Marc, and I talk.
My name's Nick. We talk about food, too. I was born in one, Jean-Marc, because I'm his littlest brother, David.
All right. Yeah.
Four Swords?
Yes, we played it. You, me, Michael, and Philippe played it.
Y'all hated me a lot, because at the very end of it.
Such a fun game.
Okay, so this is going to be like...
David.
Original game?
Great.
Huh?
Original game? No, it's not. Never mind. It looks exactly the same, but my roommates left their old GameCube for some dang reason.
Huh.
I have
It
a
looks
game.
just like mine.
I have a game
It has
too.
Star Fox Assault in it. I've never played that.
Hey, I have that game.
I heard it wasn't that bad.
And Adventure. Adventure's the one they say it's bad, but it's not that bad. It's a rare character platformer game.
No.
So what's bad about that?
No.
It's like Banjo-Kazooie meets Star Fox.
Oh.
It's not that bad.
That's what they said about Donkey Kong 64, and I did not like that.
Oh, Donkey Kong 64 is a bad game. Okay, so what we're going to do, like 1 through 15, recommend or not?
Well, you're the one in charge of it, since you're the
Okay.
most...
Yeah, this is your podcast.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to say this is your podcast.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome to Geek Rating Review, the show where we talk about junk.
That's bad. Nice.
You're all trash, and you're listening to trash.
Yeah, we're all junk, and Mark's junk, David's junk.
All our junks.
We all got our junk out.
Mm-hmm.
In a geek trunk.
Mm. So good.
But I got a half gallon.
Mm.
This ain't no fish, son.
Wait.
David, you need to take a shot of drink before. This should be our podcasting thing, where we take a sip or a little shot of something. Wow, that looks good.
This thing is massive.
Stick it in your mouth.
Barely hold it. That's sick.
It's the half gallon.
Mm.
So we all take a shot?
Yeah, here's the Geek Rating Review.
This is a toast. I told...
David, you have to hold it with 2 hands. Jeez.
It's so cute.
Mm. Woo! Yeah.
Okay. I told you, Mark,
Oh, shoot.
we're going to date our podcast. This week, Mark...
David.
It's 40% alcohol, Jamal.
Get a chaser.
My chaser has whiskey in it.
No.
This week marks the 25th anniversary of the release of Final Fantasy VI in Japan.
Woo!
Which I would say is my favorite video game of all time.
It's probably my second favorite video game.
So to mark that, we will talk about Final Fantasy 1 through 15, excluding 11 and excluding 14.
Thank you.
Never played them.
Those games are MMOs, and we don't care.
Final Fantasy Online 1 and 2.
Yeah, that's what they should have been called. It's Final Fantasy Online.
I agree. Okay, Final Fantasy 1, landmark game. It is the reason that JRPGs had successful launches in the West. I have a box copy.
Beautiful.
I have a small caveat that Dragon Warrior alone.
Dragon Warrior never successfully launched in the West. The reason Nintendo gave copies of Dragon Warrior away with Nintendo Power subscription. The reason that so many copies of Dragon Warrior exists in America is because you just filled out a postcard to Nintendo Power and they sent you a copy of that game.
Wow.
Final Fantasy 1, however, released in 1990 in America and sold like crazy. It did very well in the United States.
Beautiful. If you could only see what he's showing us. I don't think I've ever held the Final Fantasy black box before. I think I've only held the cartridge.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, this is the black box.
Yeah, I love it. It's great.
It's a very difficult game.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say that.
Yeah.
It's not a great game. It does a lot. It's like a beginner RPG. It's got its issues of like hitting. If you select attack and something dies, and it dies before the next person hits it, and you didn't select that spot, it will hit empty air. because everybody knows when you get in a fight and somebody dies, you're gonna hit the empty air when they die. Everybody knows that.
That was my most frustrating thing about that
Yeah, it's that game. It's got a semblance of a story. There's a big bad, and there's some time travel involved.
But it did something that no other game did, in my opinion. That was original to that, and that you didn't see the title sequence until
Right.
you did that. That part blew me away.
The
Where I was
title
like,
card.
"Whoa!" Like I didn't even realize I hadn't seen the title sequence even. And then when
Yes.
it came down, I was like, "The game is just starting. Like that wasn't the whole game. Like
Yeah,
that blew my
That can
mind."
literally be a couple hours for a person to
Yeah.
go and and back then most Nintendo games, were 30 to 40-minute experiences. You
Yeah.
could beat
Yeah.
Mega Man 1 in an hour.
Yeah.
So
It's
for this
really
game,
good.
this game also has a battery in it, a
Mm.
little tiny watch battery,
Mm-hmm.
so you can save it. Mine has corrupted several times.
No.
There is only one save slot.
Oh
So
man.
if it corrupts, then you have lost all your progress.
Wow.
Right.
That's messed up.
Yeah.
The ideal way to play Final Fantasy 1 is on the PSP. It is
I like the Boy Advance version better.
I have it right here. This is the PSP version. It is remade from the ground up. It has updated visuals, it has updated sound, it has updated music, and it doesn't corrupt your save file.
Hmm.
It's the best way to play that game if you want to revisit it. There's also Final Fantasy Origins, which is 1 and 2 on the PS1.
Mhm.
The game's
Yeah.
fine, but it also has load times, which isn't fun.
That's not fun. And I played it on Game Boy Advance.
Yes, Dawn of
Yeah.
Souls. That is a very good version of that.
Yeah.
If I had to pick an ideal version, I would say the PSP version.
Yeah.
I like
Final-
Dawn of Souls because it didn't read the disc. That's the only reason I liked it better.
Yeah.
Does the
I-
PSP version fix if you don't hit the thing, you hit the air? Or is it the same thing on that? Does it
I
fix-
think
The only
did.
one
I
that
think
had
it
that
did.
was the original.
Yeah, I think it does fix it.
Okay.
It is just the NES version that has that issue.
Okay.
So yeah, if anybody has a PSP lying around, you can probably pick that game up on eBay for $8.
Or you can download it on your Vita, probably.
Probably.
Yeah.
Just avoid the PS1 version because of the loading times. It doesn't have as good of visuals on the PS1 version, and the GBA version is also very serviceable. Final Fantasy II. There does not exist a good version of that game.
Nope.
That game is bad from the ground up. It never
Yeah,
released in America for the NES. In Japan, Famicom Edition. First time the West got it was the PS1 version, which is Final Fantasy Origins. That also is not a good game.
I played after I beat the first one, I played the second one also on Game Boy Advance, and I didn't really understand what I was doing to level up. But
Hit yourself.
yeah, that's what you told me later. But I was enjoying it. I was like, this is a fun Final Fantasy game. I'm enjoying it. And then I got lost, and my people stopped leveling up.
Yes.
And I was like, what happened? Where do I go? Why can't I level up? What's going on in the game? And then that's when I stopped playing it. But up until that point, I was enjoying it a lot.
FF2 is a very disjointed experience. It does not give you direction. The way to level up is to hit yourself.
Wow.
Arguably, Final Fantasy 1 doesn't tell you what to do either. But
Yes,
figure it
Final
out.
Fantasy 1 is also a more linear experience.
Yeah.
The world map basically leads you in a direction to where you need to go. Like you need the pirate ship to get to the next place after you beat
yeah.
the first boss, the second boss. You beat a pirate. Harlan.
Yeah, pirate.
You get a pirate ship, and then you can get a boat to go up rivers and stuff. It leads you down a track. FF2 is not like that at all. It doesn't tell you enough. It's kind of fun hitting yourself to level up because you can just kind of cheese your way through the game,
Yeah.
but it doesn't make it a successful game. It's not a fun game.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
I like the aspect of like leveling up your weapon. I thought that was cool, but
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, but to just hit yourself, it's like you can just get into a fight with any old scrub enemy, and that's how you level up. That's not fun.
Yeah.
Best version of that is also on the PSP. Called Final Fantasy II. Also released on PS1. Also released Dawn of Souls, GBA. But I would personally avoid that game. I own all those versions. but I am a Final Fantasy collector. If I say a game in this podcast, I own it.
Okay. Whoa.
Whether it's bad or good, I own every Final Fantasy game released in the West. Final Fantasy III, also not released in America until 2007. The DS version came out. DS version also released on the same version, basically released on iOS, so you could play that game on iPad, which is the first way that I played that game.
Whoa.
Wow.
Great version, fully
Really?
3D, got some voice acting. Touchscreen controls are fine. It's got a little drag to control your movement.
It's off the way of 3DS. Like you said.
Yeah, but it also has their job system, which is very, very intuitive. It
On
is
3?
the first 3. Yes,
Yeah.
it is it is a implemented job system in Final Fantasy that is good.
Oh.
Yes, white mage, black mage, all that stuff. You can select your classes. You have 4 characters that throughout. You change your classes kind of on the fly. You level up what you need to. You approach different situations. It is a good game. Very good game. If you have a DS, that game's really cheap. It's a great version on DS. If you have an iPad, it is probably really cheap now to get that game on iPad.
It also has my favorite Final Fantasy fight.
Which one?
The Final Fantasy 3.
The boss fight?
The generic fight.
Oh, the fight theme. Okay. Well, my favorite is coming up. A really cool way to play that game is on a translated ROM, but the visuals, kind of suffer. It's still in that old NES engine, but it is a pretty good translation. I've played it. It's fun. Final Fantasy III is a good game. I don't know why it never came to the West.
And that originally released on on what?
Famicom. That is a Japanese NES game.
Yeah. Okay.
Never released here until 2007.
Okay.
There's some very strange numbering conventions that weren't fixed until 7.
Yeah.
But kind of the internet's gone over that for decades and decades. I'm using the Japanese naming conventions in this podcast, so
yes.
Shoot, I don't care. Next, we have Final Fantasy IV. A lot of people, this was their first Final Fantasy. A lot of people of our generation, our age, this was their first Final Fantasy game. It was the first Final Fantasy to release on Famicom, Super Famicom, and Super Nintendo.
What was it called on Super Nintendo?
It was called Final Fantasy II. That is right here. This is a box version of Final Fantasy II.
Wow.
This is a very, very, very good game. It released, 92, I think, in America, to critical acclaim. Also also very good sales. It's 4.
In 2 years?
Oh, yeah. They put these things out.
That's crazy.
I heard the first 2 and 3 were basically like copies.
They were developed. Yeah,
1.
two started development as soon as 1 released. And I believe 2 and 3 were almost developed concurrently because 1 was such a big hit. So they were already developing 3 when 2 came out. And kind of the same thing. They were developing 4 as 3 was being developed for the Super Famicom.
Wow.
For the new hardware and everything. Also, we'll talk about Hironobu Sakaguchi, who is the creator of the series. He was very hands-on early in the games. 2, 4. We're going to say 4. It's 4. Introduced active time battles, where as the battle is going on, time doesn't stop whenever you select or you get into a menu. You have bars, ATB bars that are slowly going up. Yeah. So the action is constant in the battle. Unless you can turn it off. You can turn ATB off in these games, which I don't recommend. ATB introduces an added challenge. Like some of these JRPGs are slower and everything, but when you're doing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of battles, you want to keep them interesting. So by keeping ATB on, it gives you that extra challenge where you have to make your decisions quicker. Yeah.
Yeah. No, David.
Either of you played this one?
Oh, you're in. I have not. Go ahead.
I played the DS remake. I never played the original Nintendo version. Although I've heard nothing but good things about it, so I was very glad when it came out on DS. Very actively playing.
The DS version is a full 3D remake ground up, voice acting, full 3D renders. Like it is a full remake of this game. My personal favorite edition of this game is the PSP version, which is still using 2D sprites
Hmm.
and like an orchestrated soundtrack and everything. It's really cool. It's really well done. It doesn't have the voice acting and everything. It's like a Super Nintendo game on steroids with all the sprite work and stuff. It's a super good version of that game. It's probably not as cheap as the DS version for anybody that's interested in playing this game.
You have to
The Super
know about
Nintendo
that.
version goes for like $40 if you're trying to get that one. But this game is also like has an extended universe with Final Fantasy IV, the After Years, and some other stuff which aren't as good. Final Fantasy IV is the first like I'd say A+ Final Fantasy game.
Yeah.
Also released on Final Fantasy Chronicles on PS1 alongside Chrono Trigger.
Oh wow.
But
Yeah.
neither one of those are good because
Yeah.
load times. There are loading times going into battle.
That is crazy.
Yes. For basically Super Nintendo ROMs playing on a PS1. You will get in a battle screen and it'll stop. And then the battle music starts. So Final Fantasy IV has my favorite battle music
Oh.
out of the whole series.
I have to go back and listen to it. I don't remember it.
It's like da 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 da.
Yeah.
Super
I
good.
think 3 and 9 are probably my favorite.
Yeah. 9's got some good music too. We'll get there.
Yeah.
Mark, you want to add anything?
Nope.
You haven't played any of these except one?
I
Two?
played the next one.
Next, we have Final Fantasy V, which
Yes.
only released in America one time on PS1.
That's not true.
Huh.
Some Game Boy didn't have the Game Boy.
Oh, yeah. That version is trash. That is a poor translation.
It was.
Very bad.
It's good.
Final Fantasy V also has job system. It has the most robust job system in any Final Fantasy game ever made, even to this day. There is just a laundry list of jobs that you can learn and master. It has some of my favorite characters in the franchise. Really well fleshed out characters, and it is probably the hardest game in the series in terms of difficulty.
You have to grind it.
You have to grind. You have to level up your jobs. You have to do certain tasks in order to beat certain boss because you will be stuck.
Yeah.
You can't have the same party throughout the game. You have to change up the
Oh yeah, you have to swip it out. The PS1 translation is terrible. There is a fan translation that you can get in a ROM that is much better. Squaresoft at the time had a really shoddy localization team whenever it came to bringing games over this side, and this game was never translated until the PS1 or 6 years after its original release, and they kind of just threw a translation together, and it wasn't very good, and it's not much better in terms of the translation. So play the fan translated ROM. That's the ideal way to play that game.
I played 5. I don't remember if I played what I played it on. It might have been the Game Boy version because that's where I played 1 and 2, and I think I was trying to play through 1 to 10, and I couldn't find 4 or 3 anywhere, so I skipped to 5 because we had it, and I played it till I got like a colored chocobo or something at part of the game by it.
That's
not
far. That's not very far.
And I was like, I don't know what to do, and then I stopped playing it, and that's what happened.
Maybe
That's like the second major dungeon.
I think that's 3 hours into the game.
Yeah, I think that's as far as I got in 5.
Yeah.
And I think I was intimidated by the job system, like because it was so different than 1 and 2 that when I got the job system, I wasn't sure how I was going to do it or implement it. So that could have been another reason I stopped playing
Just a
it.
party amongst your mouth. Do a party amongst.
Yep.
Oh, every.
It's not user friendly. It's not. If you're a Final Fantasy IV fan and you're jumping straight into 5 and you've never played anything else, you're going to be confused.
Yeah.
But it's still a good game.
Yeah.
Yeah, have fun with it.
Oh yeah, I played that game before the PS1 version came. I played it emulated, the fan translation, and I was like, at that time, I was like, why didn't they release this here?
Yeah.
Why? And then, almost like prophecy, you read in Game Informer or Fan Gamer or whatever, like Final Fantasy V coming to the West, Final Fantasy Anthology.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was almost like I willed it to happen, and then they never did anything else with it.
Yeah.
I think the job system doesn't fit the Final Fantasy chemistry. Like if Final Fantasy has a formula, it's like they figured it out in the next game. You need a character to have a job. I think that works better.
Yeah, because it's
So
you don't have a everyman. It's part of who they are to have.
right, they have certain attributes that tie in almost to their character arc. So we're gonna move on to my favorite game
Best
of all time. This is a box copy of Final Fantasy
Beautiful.
III in America, Final Fantasy VI everywhere else. It also released on the GBA and the PlayStation 1. This is the GBA version.
Wow.
That's also boxed. The PS1 version is garbage because of load times.
Again.
The best way to play Final Fantasy VI is on the SNES Classic.
Oh.
Because it is a true to the word, like true to everything emulation of the Super Nintendo version, and you get to play it in HDMI
Awesome.
on a high definition TV.
Awesome.
Final Fantasy VI is my favorite game ever. Final Fantasy VI is probably my favorite video game soundtrack ever.
Mm-hmm. Probably go find it.
It's incredible. This is the game I bought when I was a kid. This is the copy.
Wow.
You know, that game means more to me than anything. It is the game that got me into gaming. It's what made me into a complete and total nerd. I beat it once a year.
Wow.
I have to. It's in my internal doctrine to play this game once a year. I had 5 or 6 friends that also bought it. It was so good. Just I don't know what else I could say about it. It's also like it swept the job system underneath the rug and gave each character a job, basically. And that's what Final Fantasy kind of did moving forward.
Yeah.
Where character specific traits, like you have a thief, Locke. He's a thief in the game, and he's your thief in your party. He steals, he mugs, he does things that thieves do. So, yeah, it's one of my favorite video game characters. And it's a part of his arc, and it's a part of his gameplay. It's a part of his commands. That's where Final Fantasy kind of nailed down their formula. And a lot of people say that your first Final Fantasy is your favorite Final Fantasy. I disagree. My wife's first Final Fantasy was Final Fantasy XII, which is her favorite Final Fantasy. But I played 1 and 4 before I played 6. And 6, when I got my hands on 6, I knew that this was this is next level. This is better than anything I've ever played. And my favorite game of all time has not changed since 1994, the first time I played Final Fantasy VI. So, Mark, have you ever played it?
I've never played it ever, in any way, shape, or form.
And it's
I would
not
say-
because someone told him to. I definitely told him to play it multiple times.
When we were in high school, or definitely when I was in high school, I let one of your brothers, I don't know if it was Michael or Philippe, borrow that copy of Final Fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't get it back for months because it circulated in that house.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody beat it because I had a brand new save file on slot 3. You had your chance.
Well,
I played most of it. I didn't get to beat it because I was always the last one to play a game.
Yeah, you were the baby.
But yeah, easily my favorite video game when I played it. Like even the opening sequence, I was like, "This is the coolest thing ever."
Yes.
And you
have Terra's theme. You have this weird Super Nintendo cinematic. Like, is this a movie or what? The 3 mechs walking through the snow. You have that theme song playing, which still gives me goosebumps when I hear it today.
Yeah.
This game is 25 years old now, and that SNES beat boop beat music still gives me goosebumps because it's so evocative, it's so moving. If you hear the orchestrated version of the Distant Worlds concerts that released on CD, oh my god,
So
it's so good. It is so
awesome.
good.
Wow.
So, Jamar, you still have a PS3, right?
I don't have it hooked up.
Okay, you have a Vita, right?
Yes.
Go and spend $9.99 and get the Final Fantasy VI version. It's the PS1 version. It's not great,
Why would I
but
want to play that version?
it is basically a Super Nintendo port on PS1.
Well, don't they? They don't have it on
They
the
didn't.
NES, SNES Classic.
That is on the SNES Classic, but you will pay $90 for the SNES Classic.
I'd rather do that.
Okay. Well, you can pay $10 and get it on Vita, or pay $90 and play it on your TV.
With it,
And you're gonna have to get an extension cord for the controller.
Well,
Yeah.
I
Gotta
said
save you some money. Play this game. I recommend it to anybody that plays video games.
Even if you don't like, I mean, I know you like Final Fantasy gameplay, but even if you don't like it, play it just for the story. It's one of my favorite stories.
Yes, this game has an ending at the halfway point, and you're like, I'm about to beat this game. I am about to beat this game. And then the game ends, and you lose.
Wow.
And then there's the whole second half of the game.
Wow.
When that happened when I was a kid, it blew my mind. It blew my mind.
That's when I knew that was probably my favorite video game.
Yes, I don't even know how old I was. I was very young, but I'm playing this game, and that happens. I'm literally sitting down in front of my 19-inch TV saying, I'm about to beat this game. I'm so excited. I'm 20 hours in. And then there's still more game. That's the halfway point.
Wow.
It blows you away.
Hmm.
It's the best game I've ever played. The narrative is the best narrative. The character arcs, they all have good character arcs with the exception of two people out of this huge roster of characters.
You want to call them people?
Well, I don't like Strago's character arc, and I don't like.
I got Umaro and Goku.
No. I think Umaro has more character development than Strago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that game it's a freaking masterpiece, and I almost don't want it to be touched. Game Boy Advance remake is as much as I want it touched. I don't care about enhanced visuals. I don't want 3D environments.
Yeah.
I think that game just is perfect the way it is. Leave it alone.
Yeah.
Experience it the way it was meant to be experienced.
Okay.
Play it, Joe Mark.
I had one more comment about that game. Oh yeah, my favorite song is the other Overworld song, but after you get this second character.
Oh god, yeah.
Love
it's
that.
so morose.
Yeah. That song is. Yeah.
There's hours and hours of music in that game. It's ridiculous. We're going to move on to 7.
The most popular Final Fantasy game.
7 is the first game that we're going to have that is numbered the same in America as, with the exception of Final Fantasy 1.
Yeah.
So it took 7 games for them to get to the proper naming conventions. 7 is the game that brought the JRPG to America and kind of made it stay. When 7 hit, we got this flood of JRPGs, like Wild Arms and then Grandia and Dragon Quest. Not really, because Phoenix was still afraid of the West. Yeah, I think Dragon Quest 5 or 6 is PS1. It was the last PS1.
I think 5 was
Wait, we're not talking about Dragon Quest. Final Fantasy 7. It is a good game. Final Fantasy 7 is a good game. It's a flawed game, but anybody that likes JRPGs can find something to like in this game. It's got a really cool battle system, especially with the materia.
Yeah.
A lot of people's complaint is that the material makes everybody the same. Not true. You can mix and match your material. And the weapons in this game is kind of where this game shines. Like, you can turn any weapon into a long range weapon with long range materia. So you can change how you approach different fights. It also has one of the most famous villains in gaming history with Sephiroth, who you don't really meet until the very end of the game. If you're familiar with the story of that game at all,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you're not seeing Sephiroth except for in flashbacks.
Yeah.
The real Sephiroth is tied up in live stream and all this other voodoo stuff. Story is where that game shines, and the battles, I think. Also, the optional boss fights.
Oh
Emerald and
God.
Ruby Weapon.
Never beat you.
The last time I played that game, the last time I 100% completed that game, my wife watched me play it, and I beat Emerald Weapon, which I believe is the harder fight.
Yeah.
I beat Emerald Weapon in bed, and I stood up and like fist pumped. I'm like, I haven't beat you in 15 years, you
Wow.
green. I'm like, so
Ding.
yeah, it's a really good game.
Very sad.
There is a couple versions of it. You can get it on Steam. You can get it on PS4. You can get it on PS3, which is the PS1 version.
I'm gonna
I,
ask you.
I think the PS1 version is the best version.
Yep.
I know the PS4 version you can fast forward battles and stuff, but I don't like that. I think you should play a game the way it's meant to be played.
Yeah, I have 9 on my Switch, and I do not use mouse. Hear that?
Cool.
I have a question for you, Nick, because I don't know the answer.
Okay.
Is this the first Final Fantasy game that implemented mini games as a gaming mechanic?
No. You can consider Final Fantasy VI to have mini games when it comes to like the opera scene, the Whitewater Rapids scene, and the beginning of 6, where you have to choose your path. I mean, that's kind of
Well, I see there's
small.
more interactive storyline element.
Right. But you can also, there's a way to cheese leveling in that rafting version in 6, where if you just like set a
Oh
brick
yeah.
on top of your,
Yeah.
you can loop it. It's not the first to implement mini games. It's definitely the first to like really go hard and heavy with mini. There's
The whole
15 mini
goal
games.
author is basically mini games.
Yeah, well, the gold saucer, and you also got to think of like to get to Juno, you have to give a little girl CPR, which is a mini game.
Oh yeah.
The very next thing is a mini game where you have to jump on top of a dolphin. Like that game is loaded. Yeah, that game is loaded with mini games.
Yeah, the
It's not the first, but it's definitely
The
probably
motorcycle.
the best. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot. But it's the first one where a minigame like the chocobo stuff. And by doing that, you can unlock the more powerful materia and everything.
Well, you can. It is possible to get a gold chocobo without breeding it. All you gotta do is beat the ruby weapon.
Yeah.
That being
No
said,
one to do-
all you gotta do is beat the ruby weapon is like
I mean, you almost need nights around to beat the freaking.
not true. There's a way around.
Almost there is, but I don't
Yeah.
want to do that. I would rather just do the chocobo breeding.
Go in with 2 dead people in your party and with Cloud. So that's the first tip to beat the ruby weapon.
Hmm.
The ruby weapon is way easier to cheese than the emerald weapon.
Yeah.
But there is a way that you get a desert rose from beating the ruby weapon. The desert rose you give to a guy to get a gold chocobo. Yeah. Final Fantasy VII is crazy with all the different things you can do. The end game of Final Fantasy is like 30 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so much optional stuff that is like you can spend another 30 hours just goofing off in
Yeah.
7.
Or you don't even have to have every character in it.
No, there's
No,
2
you-
characters that are completely optional.
3.
2.
Kind of. Well, there's one.
Yuffie and Vincent are the optional characters.
Yeah.
Right. But there's one who.
Optional characters.
Yeah.
You don't need to get.
Quote unquote.
Yeah, have you beaten that part?
What?
Have you beaten 7?
Yeah, I didn't. I played 7, but I didn't beat it until like sometime in the 2000s, maybe like 2010 or something. I didn't beat it till later, and I thought it was okay.
Yeah, a lot of people have that.
Like I did, because when I first played it, I was like, "This is great," and I loved it. And then when I played it again, I was like, "It was okay." Like I wasn't like blown away with it.
It's probably the most dated.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
the second most dated, because we're about to talk about Final Fantasy VIII, which I have a lot of bad things to say about that.
Yeah, let's go. Let's get. Unless David has anything to say about 7.
One more quick comments about 7. It was the first one to switch on the PlayStation. That's when Nintendo jumped Nintendo ship. Because it was going to come out in 64, remember that. And then also first 3D one, I think.
Yes.
You could say that and Metal Gear were the reasons PlayStation was relevant in the market. You
Well,
know,
Metal Gear didn't come out until 2000 or 99. Or 98. 98.
everyone I knew that owned a PlayStation had Metal Gear though, and
Yeah, Metal
every
Gear
single
Solid
one
came out
had
in
Final
98.
Fantasy.
Final Fantasy came out in 96.
Oh, okay.
Yes, 97.
Oh,
97.
okay. Yeah. Oof.
Okay, Final Fantasy VIII. Oh boy. If you're a Final Fantasy fan, you might like it. If you are not, then you don't like it. There is not a lot to like about this game, with the exception to the soundtrack. It is one of the best soundtracks in the series, but they completely changed the game. You don't have to level up in this game. It's got a cool card game.
Oh,
Triple Triad.
Yeah.
Pretty fun.
Yeah. Oh, pretty.
Like the way to make like summons is a like a big part of this game, and the way they make summons powerful is by doing them over and over and over again with unskippable cutscenes during battle, which doesn't make a game fun.
no. Oh,
It makes the
man.
game boring. So
Yeah.
the story is fine. You're a bunch of kids, like high schoolers. It's a more boring Persona game
Oh.
in terms of story, but in terms of gameplay, it's like this weird random draw system, which isn't fun.
Yeah.
It's not fun. So it is by far the most skippable Final Fantasy in the mainline series.
Next to here.
More so than 2. I would play 2 before I played 8.
I would. 2, I couldn't even get an hour into.
Yeah.
8, I got a lot far.
Well, 8's got 20 minutes of cutscenes to start it off, so
That's true.
That's true.
to get an hour into it, you only need 40 more minutes of jibber jabber from a bunch of kids.
Yeah, it's like you get into it until you have to fight and learn how to level up, and then you're like, I'm good.
But like I said, you don't need a level up. You can beat that game with your main characters having 300 hit points.
That's crazy.
It's poorly designed battle system in a pretty decently designed world.
Yeah.
It just kind of seems like a lazy attempt at making combat interesting, but instead of making combat interesting, it just kind of made it easily beatable.
Mm.
So wish that they would take 7, which is super well received, and then change the game.
Yeah. They sold 8 on visuals. It had the best character model so far in the series, and pretty decent character design because, you know, they looked human, but it really fell flat in terms of fun. You know, the game didn't need to be 4 discs. The reason it's 4 discs is because there's so many cutscenes.
Yeah.
Forgot about that.
Yeah.
Holy crap. I don't miss multiple discs even little.
4 discs. Well, 9 is 4 discs too. Let's move on straight to 9. I don't care about 8. David, you have anything to say about 8?
They can kiss my butt.
Okay, 8 hit David's butt. You can put that in writing.
Mm-hmm.
Final Fantasy IX is the renaissance of Final Fantasy. It is what got a lot of people back into it. It's one of the best selling in the series because it's one of the best in the series. Took it back to its roots, got rid of a lot of the steampunk elements, got rid of a lot of the futuristic elements, and went back to like sword and shield. You know,
Yeah.
high fantasy, super deformed characters, really good story.
Awesome card game.
Awful card game.
I love the card game so much.
Awful. I like the card game in 8 better, just because there's more cards. In 9, it feels like there's just more to it. But I think it's the worst card game. The only knock that I have against Final Fantasy IX, Final Fantasy VII had limit breaks. Limit breaks were these things that would build up over time, and you could unleash these really powerful attacks and or healing things.
Yeah.
9 was called trance.
Yeah.
Trance, once the trance meter is filled, it does it whether you like it to or not.
Yeah.
Basically wasting it.
Yeah.
So you can't keep it like you can with the limit break system.
Also argue the fact that trance is super overpowered.
Way overpowered, and you're using it against low-level creatures if you're grinding.
Yeah.
So you can't use it up against a boss. You can't save it.
No.
The only way you could really save it was to keep people out of your party that their meter was coming up close, and if you had a save point and you knew you were about to fight a boss, you could swap those characters in against the boss. But then you're leveling up characters that you don't really want to level up, like Quinoa, or if you're not really if you don't care about Steiner, or
Yeah.
you throw those guys in, and you're basically using limit breaks when you need to against boss encounters that you could be using that XP for other characters.
Yeah.
But I think the story in that game is one of the best that they've ever done. Other than the trance problem, I think it's the best combat system they've ever done since 6. And I love the freaking cutscenes in this game.
So good.
Love them. Really, really good cutscenes.
And it even scaled back like the character models from looking superhuman in 8 to just almost like something like the first.
Yeah, they're very cartoonish and whimsical, and that's kind of what we wanted, as in terms of fantasy fans. Like, we want whimsy. We don't want emo, spiky hair.
Dark 8 was like trippy, dreamy.
Yes. So 9, I definitely recommend 9 to anybody that wants to play an RPG.
For me, 9 was the second Final Fantasy I've ever played. I think I played 1.
Wow.
And then that was it. I think. But Final Fantasy 9, I think, until recently, is my favorite Final Fantasy game of all time. Because the first Final Fantasy game I went through,
on board with that.
It was the first one I played all the way through. I liked everything. It like blew my mind when I was a kid. And everyone my friend played it with the strategy guide, and I played it without it. And even though he gave it to me, I was like, no, I want to play it. You know what I mean? I don't want the strategy guide to play it for me. And
it also has the worst strategy guide in history.
Oh, yeah, he was always flipping. And
I'll be right back.
It's my favorite Final Fantasy game by far. It's fantastic.
That's an understandable statement.
Yeah.
Really, really. It's one of those I've never beat and always regretted.
Oh.
No.
It deserves to beat.
It's really long.
Yeah, it is a long game.
I never got to the end. And it's not because I didn't want to. It's just one of those things where games change hands a lot. And around the time I would get toward the end, and other games would come out and start playing other games.
Well, I have multiple copies of it.
David, you're not playing this on the Switch?
I am, yeah. I'm playing it.
I can't wait till you beat it.
I started playing Path of Radiant.
Well, I guess we're going to cut this one short, and then we're going to start up again with 10 tomorrow. Or tomorrow. Next time we have a podcast. Yeah. You have any final thoughts on Final Fantasy 1 through 9?
The most playable, the most approachable probably is 7, but the one that I would recommend the most is, for a newcomer, is 9.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you're an RPG fan, play 6.
Yeah.
But if you're unfamiliar with the concept and unfamiliar with the series, start with 9.
Yeah.
It's definitely the most approachable.
Well,
sounds good to me.
Yep. See y'all later.
I'm going to eat nachos. I'm going to eat nachos.
Yeah, I'm going to eat some. Bye.
Bye. I'm going to eat nachos.